Welcome to the Health Deli, your local stop for a fresh take on community health topics. Come on in, grab a number, and let the guys behind the counter, Mark, Ben, and Mike, tell you about today's specials.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Deli. We are not the Health Deli today. We are the Swole Deli. We're getting jacked. We're getting ripped, as it were.
The what?
Did we vote on that?
No.
I thought he choked on something.
No. So this is my episode, and we'll do as I please.
Well, so far it's turned into a bunch of crap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not been great. So anyway, I'm Ben, as always, and I'm joined by Mark.
Yes.
As well as Mike.
I mean, for the moment, yeah.
Before Mike leaves. But we also have Andrew.
Oh, we have a couple
Oh
dogs.
my gosh, we got a couple dogs joining us on
Yeah,
the,
we
on
are
the pod.
at the winery at Young
It's our
Farms.
guests.
Yeah, we've
Indeed.
got some dogs.
Oh my
coming.
gosh, and we also have Forrest.
Hello, Health Deli. You can't see.
Swole Deli.
Swole Deli. Right. Exactly.
Gosh, Forrest,
Sorry.
I thought Lisa you'd be on my side.
I'm a little slow. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
All right, hold on now, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So you forgot to mention it's season 3,
It is season 3. Yeah.
and I've been feeling a little bad that Andrew hasn't done any work around the place. And because I know we got Mark's back there at the meat counter, you're back there at the bakery, I got the sundries. So I figured Andrew needed a little responsibility.
So
So I have hired him on. Any guesses? Any guesses?
Janitorial?
Oh, I should have done that, but I've already got the beverages.
Oh, beverages.
the beverages.
That's nice.
So he's in charge of like our our seltzers and our specialty sodas and
Sure.
Nice.
energy drinks and stuff like that.
I like me a
like
good
it.
hard seltzer.
Yeah. So we're on there. Congratulations, you have been officially knighted now as beverage guy.
Thank you.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you, Mike. It's great that we have some extra hands behind the deli. But today, the episode that we have is brought to us by a listener. So, Brent, I apologize. I'm going to totally butcher your last name. Ostinowski? Ostinowski. Does that sound right to anybody?
That sounds right.
Okay. All right.
Ostinoski?
That's probably correct then. So the episode today, he asked us to talk about supplements. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but he specifically wanted us to talk about workout supplements. And he brought up BCAAs, which stands for branch chain amino acids, as well as creatine monohydrate. And so I absolutely love this question because we have not talked at all about supplements so far at the deli. And it's something that's really important. You can buy them in a lot of places.
This is 100% natural right here, fellas.
Which, so...
I can totally believe that.
Yeah. So I was gonna
Only supplement I got is a couple donuts.
from earlier today.
You're just supple.
Yes, yes.
No supplement.
I was thinking we could maybe have a workout competition. So how many push-ups do you think you guys could do?
I'm done.
Oh. I mean, all at once, or are we talking in a week?
How many days are we going to do this over?
I was gonna say in like 5 minutes.
Oh,
That's actually a long time to do push-ups. I couldn't do push-ups.
Yeah,
that
I
whole
don't know.
time.
I could probably do 25.
Okay. All right.
Not that I ever have, but
Yeah, I think that's.
if I'm going to throw a
I
number
can
out.
do
I could maybe do 20.
I can do 25.
Wow.
I'll do it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to bring everybody to put their money where their mouth is. But before that, we're going to go ahead and talk about supplements, workout supplements. But before we can talk about the workout supplements, we need to just talk about supplements in general. And so, Mark, you've kind of been the person we've talked to when it comes to like laws and regulations and stuff.
Sure.
Can you tell the folks at home just like
Because he's had a lot of problem with the police.
he's an expert, you know?
no.
He's had the most interactions.
So,
Yeah, what's kind of the difference between a supplement and like a medication?
sure. So supplements and herbal products are regulated differently than medications by the FDA. They're actually not regulated by the FDA at all, supplements and herbal products, because what they're classified as is a food product. So if you think about medicines, they need to be proven safe and effective, right? That makes sense.
In order to be sold, right?
In order to be sold.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because medicines can claim that they, have a benefit or a treatment to a disease state, right? Like this is going to help your cough and cold. And if you can say that, you need research to back that up. And then it needs to be safe as well. Food supplements don't have to pass that standard. And because they don't have to pass that standard, they can't make claims. Now, I will say they are very intentional about their packaging and what they say on their product
Mhm.
to allude to the fact that they help, maybe build bigger muscles, help with workouts, but they have to be very intentional about making claims that they can actually treat a disease.
Yeah. And so the example I always give is something like metformin. We know that that can help lower your blood sugar, that can treat diabetes. So when people are talking about metformin, you can say this will treat diabetes.
Mhm.
But if you're talking about like ginger, for example, you can't say that that treats diabetes or that treats blood pressure. What you can say is this is good for your heart. Just,
Right.
general
General
vague
stuff.
things like
Exactly.
that. That's not really been proven.
Yeah, so you need to be careful with supplements because they really have not went through rigorous trials most often to prove that they're effective or even safe. So you really need to do the research, listen to the Health Deli podcast, which you're already doing, and get good information before you start using supplements, just based on what they say on the box.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think that's going to play a big role in what we're about to talk about, because we're going to talk about a lot of supplements. There's not a lot of data to support them. And so we can't really make a lot of big claims. We can at least look at the data that's out there to see what that's been shown to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yes.
You started this, episode up by saying swole. Do you know where that came from?
No.
I don't even know what that means.
It's
Okay,
like,
here you
it's
go.
like when you're working out, you get like muscular, you're getting swole, right, Forrest?
So
Is that really?
it comes from swollen,
That's what I was gonna say.
and as a verb, it means like his little foot swole and swole until his little toes stuck out.
So
is it actually a verb?
Yes, but then there's also the informal adjective meaning extremely muscular
There
or
it
something like
is.
that. But
Mhm.
its genesis is in swollen. So
Yeah. So your
Makes
muscles are swelling up.
yeah, because you're getting so
swole.
jacked.
I like this.
I am
I've never seen this level
Really,
of
really
intensity from you, Ben. It's-
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I have
like
to gotta bring the fire,
The fact that you don't even know the words that you're saying, what they mean or where they came from, really starting to concern me. You might have to have your scripts pre-approved by our censor.
I'm
Forrest.
actually surprised that hasn't happened yet. After the
changed-
last thing that
He's
happened.
even changing the name of the program.
Yeah,
Correct.
I mean, yeah,
No one's stopping me yet. So anyway, we kind of heard about supplements. Now let's talking about how you actually build muscle. So how do we get more muscle mass or muscle protein? So in order to do that, our body essentially turns amino acids, which are things that are in the foods that we eat, in the protein that we eat, into muscle proteins. So it just does that automatically. If you want it to make more muscle protein, the big thing you need to do is resistance training. So if you want to, say, improve the muscles of your arm, the ones that you lift with, right? This is your deltoid. You'd have to put some weight here so it's resistant. So it has to pull more in order to actually do that movement it normally does.
I'm not sure what the look on Mark's face is, but is you're doing curls with nothing.
Well, I would have brought a weight, but that would have been embarrassing. So, I had to just use air.
Right.
But does that at least kind of make sense? So you're kind of moving your muscle. There's resistance against that movement. And so your body thinks, I need that muscle to be bigger. And so it's going to try and make more muscle protein.
Sure. That makes sense to me.
All right. Does that make sense, Mike?
I don't love it.
A little bit?
Yep, the first thing that you've said all day that's made any sense whatsoever.
Perfect. That means I'm moving upwards, right? It's an upward trajectory.
Seriously, there
You're
was so
redeeming
far
yourself.
down, there was no place to go.
I'll take it. Okay. So that's how we build muscle kind of naturally. And so now let's talk about workout supplements in particular. And so I wanted to make sure that we looked at the popular workout supplements. And so I went to really the only bastion of knowledge that we can all agree upon.
Great
which
word,
is,
by the way.
Thank
Bastion.
you. Thank you. So I went on Reddit. So I'm sure we all love Reddit. It's
That's
a
a
great place to
great
find
source of
all your
quality
answers. So I want to first say, take everything you read on Reddit with a grain of salt. There's a lot of people that anonymously be like, oh yeah, I'm a doctor, lawyer, astronaut, or whatever. And this is everything that I think. Everything's anonymous. You can't trust anything you read on Reddit. But I went on Reddit just to see, I went on Reddit Lean Gains. So the Lean Gains subreddit. Gains is another thing that you guys probably haven't heard of.
No.
And looked at what they thought the best workout supplements were. And I was actually surprised in a good way. So pretty much all of them said protein. So make sure you have enough protein in your diet. Some of them said creatine. They said maybe use creatine. And then a couple of people said use these BCAAs, so branch chain amino acids, among other things. There were things like arginine, vitamin D, vitamin C, fish oils, L-carnitine. We aren't not going to have time to get into every single one of those, but I'll just harken back to what Mark said with be careful anytime you're using a supplement, because again, they don't have to be proven to be safe. They don't have to be proven to be effective. So
Yeah.
be careful.
So Ben, I've got another question.
Yes, Mike?
You use the word bastion.
Yeah.
Do you actually know what the word bastion means?
So bastion, I believe, is like a plate.
Not little Sebastian from Parks and Rec.
I haven't seen that show.
He's
it's
like 10,000 candles in the wind.
It's a place where you like store something. It's like a place, like a safe haven, I want to say, something
I think it's like
that.
a safe, like something you put something in that's like
It's
a stronghold.
It's a fortified area.
Okay.
Or a projecting part of a fortification.
Okay.
Not a fornication, fortification. So I will give you maybe half of that as being correct.
I think like 65%.
So
yeah, a little bit.
if you have not gathered it, I'm going to be word checking people today.
I lost my word privileges earlier this morning, but that's fine. Okay, so I want.
Do you know what the word fine means? I'm just kidding.
Nope. All right, cut Mike's mic. Get it out of here.
Let me unplug him.
So there's three main things I wanted us to kind of touch on today. So protein, creatine, and BCAAs, which is exactly what Brent kind of asked us to look at, and the things that I found pretty regularly. So those are the ones that I want to drill deeper into. All right, the first one is one that's not very controversial, but it's a good baseline, and that is protein. So the way that protein, helps increase muscle mass is, again, your body digests the protein that you eat, and then it turns it into amino acids, and then those amino acids get turned into protein. So they're essentially into muscle protein. So essentially the building blocks that let us build more muscle, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Yeah.
Okay, good.
In food sources, where's protein? That's usually like meats and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, chicken, beef, all those kind of things, but also like certain mushrooms will have some.
And for Ben, tofu, I think, is a good source of protein.
Tofu does have protein.
Maybe some temp or something.
Yeah, that's actually why I started making it, because I needed more protein in my diet.
You wanted to get jacked.
I wanted to get
Swole.
mad gains.
Yeah.
No cap.
Yeah.
So, no, don't, Mike, don't.
No cap.
I see you. So that's how proteins work. You can also have just, supplemental protein. So there's protein powders, which have a lot of protein in them. So if you need more protein, that's ways to get it.
So why would you need more protein? Why wouldn't you just eat more?
Yeah. So unfortunately, not everything we eat, your body turns into muscle protein. So if you eat like carbohydrates and things like that, yes, that's good for energy in your body, but it's not really those building blocks for muscle so if you're trying to gain muscle, protein is really the best thing for you.
Okay. And I imagine that if you're doing a supplement, one of the things you're working out, you're not trying to get fat, but gain the muscle mass, and there's be calories associated with the food and stuff like that perhaps you would avoid if you're doing a supplement.
Yeah, and we're not going to get into like the ideal way to do like bodybuilding, because you definitely will get into things like protein to calorie ratios and things like that. But yes, you will have to watch those things pretty carefully, because you will just kind of gain adipose tissue or fat tissue if you're just eating a lot of calories.
Ben, are you capping me?
No cap. Skrilla.
Cap means if you're capping somebody, that means they're lying to you.
Yeah, correct. And so I said no cap, as in I'm not lying.
See, I didn't know what you meant. I thought you meant like there is no cap on my workout routine.
Oh, no.
I am not stopped.
Nope. So
You may want to word check Ben periodically too, Mark. Having the Ben translator over here.
We just need an episode that's just me talking about all these slangs. Anyway, so I wanted to look in to see what data actually exists for protein, because it's pretty widely regarded that eating a good amount of protein helps increase muscle mass. But is there any actual data to support that? Is really my question. So what I did is I pulled up a meta-analysis. So
You've talked about those season one, going way back. Look for it.
Way back. I'm going to very briefly just remind everybody, a meta-analysis is when you have many, many small studies and you kind of combine the results together and try to get like a bigger study out of it. Because
Ben just doesn't like meta-analysis generally, do you?
I mean, I think they can be okay. The problem is that your meta-analysis is only as strong as all the smaller studies together.
Sure.
So if you have a lot of really good studies and you combine all of them, then that's an awesome meta-analysis. Unfortunately, as we're about to find out, this meta-analysis is a lot of really small, not great studies.
Gotcha.
And so you put poop in, you get poop out, essentially.
Or
All
you
right.
put protein in,
You get protein out.
you probably still get poop out.
Yeah, you know. So anyway, I pulled up a meta-analysis. It had a total of 62 studies in it. So it actually had a lot of studies that they combined together. And essentially what they looked at was people who did just resistance training, and then people who did resistance training plus an amount of protein as well in their diet. So extra protein. And they just compared essentially how much muscle mass those people got. Okay. What do you guys think happened?
30%.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you
What about
kind of stole. I think maybe no gain. I
Okay.
think your body just knows how much protein it needs. I just no gain.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. So Mike, with his 30% guess, the classic was actually pretty dang close. So
See, it's always right.
yeah, it's always right. So people who ate appropriate amounts of protein had about a 22% increase in muscle mass gain compared to people who just did resistance training without protein.
Really, 22% better.
Yes. And so if you think about it, if we're talking about how much muscle mass you're actually gaining, it's relatively small amounts, right? Like unless you're really a bodybuilder. And so that 22% isn't like a huge increase
I gotcha.
in like the real world scale, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But they did see an increase. So getting that extra protein, getting those extra building blocks in your body did actually help people build more muscle mass.
Now, and so help me out again. Was that with exercise or without exercise?
So it was both. So these people, it was comparing resistance training alone to resistance training plus protein. And the plus protein.
So,
group.
but they didn't do the protein plus nothing.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm thinking of this as more of like supplements to working out. So things that help improve.
I'm
your
looking for a
workouts.
magic pill.
But
unfortunately.
I don't work out like I should. I know. But you know, not everyone is looking to build muscle mass by working out, right? So if you were a marathoner, you may not be looking to build muscle mass. Would protein still be appropriate for those folks, or is it more
Well, they're
just
still looking
to build
for muscle mass, I guess, but not necessarily bulk.
Right.
Because don't you have different types of muscles? And I don't know. And I'm like making stuff up, but I think that there are, because
Well, there's heart muscle.
Yeah, but I mean, you also have muscles in your leg and stuff like that.
Yeah. True.
I think you brought up a really good point, Mark. I personally don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
You're probably right that someone who's a marathon runner is going to be eating and training differently than someone who's like a professional bodybuilder. I don't know though.
Okay,
main
but
differences,
22% is actually surprising. I really thought all of these supplements were smoke and mirrors, and there was really no benefit. But
Yeah, I think most people would say protein's not really like a supplement. It's more just a natural part of things you should be eating. But so
is there protein in donuts?
there's no. Actually, I do know of
There is if you put
protein
bacon on it.
donuts.
That sounds horrible.
you
I've
can
never
put bacon on a donut.
Well, that's
never
where
had
I was
those.
thinking as well, getting Elvis.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. So just to wrap this kind of section up, there is kind of a specific amount of protein that we think might be best for people that are trying to use it to help increase muscle mass. And that's about 1.6 grams per kilogram. And so I'm going to try and turn that into something people might actually know. So I weigh about 140 pounds. And so that means I would need to eat about 100 grams of protein a day. A
Okay.
pound of chicken has 140 grams of protein. So I would need to eat like,
Half a pound.
half a pound,
Oh, I
maybe a
can
little
do-
more
I can do
of protein
Yeah.
or of chicken a day.
I'd much rather eat half a pound of chicken than take a protein supplement.
That's fair. Actually, some of those protein powders like don't taste that bad.
You're not selling it.
It's not
Chicken
the best way
tastes
to
good.
sell the idea, Ben.
Chicken tastes really good.
Fair. That's
They
fair.
don't taste that bad.
Yeah, I can't really sell them that well. They aren't amazing. And so the reason I gave that number is because if you eat too much protein, if there's too much protein in your diet, that can actually be dangerous. So having too much protein in your diet can cause kidney damage, it can cause liver damage, it can also cause heart disease. And so you don't want to go overboard. It's not, again, a magic pill like Mike, you were saying, where you can just take as much as you want and that's going to cause you to have a lot of muscle mass. That's not what you want to do. You want to make sure you're being smart about that.
So 1.6 grams per kilogram.
Correct, of protein. All right. And so before we get into kind of the more nebulous kinds of supplements like creatine and BCAAs, we have a healthy minute.
The Healthy Minute brought to you by the winery at Young Farms. Today's Healthy Minute topic is Increase your level of physical activity. To reduce your risk of heart disease by up to 25%, the CDC recommends that adults have moderate exercise at least 150 minutes per week. This is defined as an activity that makes your heart beat faster than normal. In addition to this, they also recommend that you have at least 2 sessions of muscle strengthening activities per week. This means working your muscles more than usual. Some easy ways to increase your physical activity is to park further away from your destination, take the stairs, and take walks during break time instead of sitting down. Fitness devices and apps may also help hold you to your commitment to increasing your physical activity. That was the Healthy Minute, brought to you by the Winery at Young Farms in Mecosta, Michigan. Please visit www.thewineryatyoungfarms.com for more information. Now, back to the Health Deli.
I think what Mark meant to say was back to the Swole Deli, but we're gonna give him a pass.
That's not what he meant to say.
Let me redo that. Now, back to the Swole Deli.
Love that. Mike, can we get that permanently changed?
Nope.
Dang it. Mike doesn't let us have any.
It doesn't roll off the tongue.
It really doesn't.
Sounds
I've already purchased swoledeli.com.
Love that. Actually, maybe don't do that. We don't know where that links to. Okay. So just in summary about protein, probably helpful if you use an appropriate amount of protein while you're working out. Okay. Now let's move on to some of these other a little sketchier things. So creatine. So has anyone heard about creatine for weight or muscle gain?
This was all the rage when I was in college years ago.
So you had a lot of creatine that you ate.
I
is
did
what you're
not.
trying to
I've
say.
never taken it, never tried it, but I knew a lot of people who did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Mike, you ever hear of creatine?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. So what is creatine? What is it theoretically supposed to be doing? So creatine is an amino acid. So as we talked about, amino acids are what our body uses to make muscle. It comes from our diet, so it's in red meat, seafood, and about 50% of it's naturally created by your body, but most of it's from your diet. And it's thought to be a source of energy for your muscles. So
like donuts.
it's not everything is donuts, Mike.
Why not?
Actually, that's a great question. We'll have to come back to that. But the idea is if you take creatine as a workout supplement, it will help you work out longer because it's going to give more energy to your muscles.
Why would I want to do that? I mean, it sounds horrible.
Well, the more that you can work out, theoretically, the more you're going to be building muscle, right? So that's the idea.
I have to work out longer. Horrible. Can I get something that helps me work out less?
Well, this might, because you'd have the same gains maybe in less time.
There you go.
So I can get zero gains in like negative time?
Maybe. I don't know.
You can gain minutes on your life.
Ooh, I like this.
No. That's not how that works.
Is that a health claim?
Nope. These are supplements, no health claims. So the other thing that creatine does, which I find very interesting, is that water follows creatine. So wherever creatine goes, there's going to be some water that comes with it. And so creatine goes into our muscles because your muscles try to use it for energy, but more water goes in too.
And they swole.
So they are getting
osmotic
swollen,
effect, yeah.
which is going to increase your muscle mass, but it's not muscle protein. It's just extra water that's in your muscles.
Sure. So if you're looking for looks of big muscles.
So that's not exactly what I was getting at. Yeah. I was more getting at the studies we're going to look at, which maybe see an increase in muscle mass. Maybe that's just water. It might not actually be an increase in muscle mass.
I see what you're saying. So you might not actually be stronger.
It's
necessarily.
wet weight, not dry weight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wet weight. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep those things in mind. So I found another review. This was a systematic review, not a meta-analysis. Very similar. Not really going to talk into the differences. But they included 16 studies. So 16 studies looking at creatine. And so very similar design. One group did some working out with no creatine. The other group did some working out and also had some creatine. So that was the main difference between them. Of note, pretty much none of these studies none of them had more than 100 patients. Most of them had somewhere around 20 to 30. So a lot of very small studies. Also, these studies did not control for things like protein. So we have no idea how much protein anybody in these studies were eating. And they also, they did an okay job in terms of making sure the working out was about the same.
Did they use a placebo, do you know, or no?
I believe they did.
Okay, good.
Yep, training plus creatine compared to training plus placebo.
Okay.
And the other thing was the dose of creatine also wasn't standardized. So some people would get like 5 grams a day. Some people got like 20 grams a day. So it was like all over the
Like
place.
30% more.
That's a little bit more than 30% more, actually. It's about like 400% more. Okay, so what do you guys think creatine did?
Nothing.
So I gotta do the opposite then. I gotta say 30% increase in muscle mass.
Okay. So,
Well,
great.
it's not muscle mass, muscle weight.
Yes, muscle weight. That is true. Okay, so what it found, they actually had 2 different groups that saw different things. For younger patients, which was defined as between the ages of 20 and 30, patients
pretty
had
young.
somewhat of an increase in muscle strength. So there was increases in the amount people could bench press.
It's because they were just getting older. I mean, they were finally old enough to lift something.
But how was it? You said modest, or how did you phrase that?
So I don't have the exact numbers,
What
but
was
there
it?
was a statistically significant
Okay.
increase in the amount that could be bench pressed.
Okay.
I don't have actual numbers. There was also an increase in muscle mass, so that muscle weight that Mike was talking about. Unclear if that's actual muscle protein or if it's just increases in water weight. We don't really
But they
know.
were stronger.
Right, but they did see an increase in how much they could bench press. Okay.
Clinically significant versus statistically significant. So I'm going with nothing.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point, Mike. So just because something is statistically significant does not mean that it's really showing a real benefit that can be seen.
They
right?
probably should have done a non-inferiority study or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably should have. But again, most of these studies had like 20 people in them, so you're not finding anything in that way. Anyway, so that was younger people. For older people, and this was defined as between the ages of 50 to 60s. So
Why is that got to be old? That seems like spry.
I just
to
said
me.
I said older, not necessarily flat out old.
Sure.
So for older patients,
Do you know in less than 5 years I can legitimately hit off the LOTs?
oh really?
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
I thought you could now.
Oh, I do now.
Sure.
So for older people, such as maybe Mike, who knows? We don't really know. No difference at all if you got creatine or not. That seems surprising.
Nope.
Yeah, I wasn't really too surprised about that either. It was kind of interesting that younger patients and older patients were different from each other, but I think it gets back down to the point where Mike is like, is that a clinically significant difference?
Yeah,
I
and it
think.
does surprise me a little bit. If the claim is that it gives you longer workout duration, you would think younger people wouldn't benefit from it because young people already have, more.
Well, maybe they
stamina.
don't eat as
Yeah.
well, so they don't have a lot of
Maybe.
these things in there. So they're just too busy eating like health food and salad and junk like that. And we're older people.
Or eating
we're
Taco Bell
We're
and-
maximizing out our dietary.
We're getting
and
a lot of
getting
protein.
donuts and stuff. Yeah, I mean,
There's no, I don't
Bacon.
think there's any protein or
we're not
creatine in donuts.
supplementing
Mike.
anything to perfect.
No.
Had a custard-filled long john, chocolate long john today. It was beautiful. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
He's a good guy.
Anytime.
I think I need to give Mark a hug.
Don't.
I'm not while I'm in between you. So the other thing I want to touch on with creatine is there are some side effects that may be associated with creatine. Again, it's a food supplement, so it does not have to be proven to be safe and effective. The main side effect we see with it is water retention, which, as you would imagine, as I already kind of talked about, some people experience things like dizziness, some like nausea, some excessive sweating. So it's pretty well tolerated, but there are some side effects. There are also some theoretical concerns. If you have diabetes, kidney disease, or liver disease, it's recommended that you avoid creatine because creatine can make those conditions worse. So I definitely want to make sure I throw that out there. If you have any of those
Because your
things,
kidneys
stay
have to
away.
get rid of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So does it actually make it worse, or does it just look like it's worse? Because would this get confused with creatinine?
That's a great question. I do not know. I looked into it. I couldn't find any, because I mentioned this is a theoretical concern. I couldn't find anything that actually shows that this caused damage in those patients, but the concern is there that that could happen. And so if there's no clear benefit and maybe it's hurtful, we should probably avoid it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So final verdict here. If you're a relatively young patient, or person, I should say, maybe creatine is helpful, but the data is not great. Again, all these studies are very small, not incredibly powerful studies, but there it is.
They're not swole studies.
They are not jacked studies, as it
Gotcha.
were.
All right.
Okay, so we have time for one final supplement, BCAAs. I've never heard of this before. So branch chain amino acids. Had either of you heard of this? Forrest, have you heard of this? Is this like a newer thing?
I don't think I have heard of it, unfortunately. I'm not one to really. I don't go to the gym very often. I'm not swole.
It kind of shows for us. I mean, I was not going to say anything, but
The only time I've heard of branch chain amino acids is it's maple syrup urine disease, right?
I've not heard of that before.
Or if you can't metabolize branch chain amino acids, you end up with this condition called maple syrup urine disease. I'm pretty sure.
I know what
Your urine turns into maple
You looked
syrup.
that up.
Let me look that up.
But I have heard of these, and like they come in like a liquid form, and they'll like dump them into shakes or stuff like that.
Yep.
Which always seems just another stupid waste of money.
Right. Yeah. So let's look into that. Is this a stupid waste of money or not? The answer probably won't surprise you, Mike. So BCAAs, again, these are amino acids, as we already talked about. Amino acids are building blocks of our muscles. In particular, this is leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And what makes these ones special is that normally amino acids can go like anywhere in the body. Your body uses them more than just for making muscle. But the branch chain amino acids are thought to be specifically for the muscles in your body. So like, your arm muscles, your leg muscles, those kinds of things. So theoretically, if you're getting more of those, they're going to be more targeted towards the muscle that you're trying to build. And so that's kind of the proposed benefit for these BCAAs. But of note, these things are just in protein. So if you eat an appropriate amount of protein, you're going to get all these BCAAs already. Okay, so found one last study that we're going to talk about, another systematic review, had about 21 studies in it. Again, most of them low quality. Most of these did not even have 20 people in them. So this is actually worse than the creatine study that we just talked about. Also, most of these studies did not control for diet, did not control for protein supplements, and also did not control for creatine either. So who knows what these patients were doing other than the fact that some got BCAAs and some did not.
Did it control for the flavor of the shake?
I don't think so. So I think some of them got strawberry.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so maybe not.
Poor design. Everybody would have got chocolate in my world.
That's fair. I prefer peanut butter, actually. But, okay. So they looked at people who did training with nothing else and then training with BCAAs. So that was kind of our two groups. Any guesses on what they found? So things that they looked at were muscle mass growth, muscle strength, and muscle soreness were things that they all looked at.
Well, I'm going to say no difference, no change. But if this was done by a manufacturer supported, maybe some bias in there. So they were pressured to find something.
Okay, fair
I'm
enough.
going to say an increase in mass, no difference in anything else, just because it's kind of like protein. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
All right, that's fair. And so the things that they found, unfortunately, no difference in muscle mass growth, no difference in muscle strength, but those could be because maybe these people were just eating protein already, right? We don't know. They didn't control for those things. Some studies did show a decrease in muscle soreness in particular. So there was less soreness, but again, that was only a couple of the studies, not all of them, but maybe that's a benefit there. So what do you guys think about that?
I think that I just did the research on maple syrup urine disease, and I was correct that certain individuals lack an enzyme needed to break down branch chain amino acids, so it accumulates, thus giving their urine a smell of maple syrup and their earwax.
Their earwax as well.
Wow.
Do you want to give a shout out to Archer?
Yeah, my son wants us to do an episode on earwax, so look for an upcoming episode on earwax. Maybe we can get into
Smelling maple syrup.
Maybe get into maple syrup earwax disease.
So when you first said that, I thought you were going to say that your urine was the consistency of maple syrup, and I was terrified.
No. Just the
Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. So again, not a lot of benefits from the BCAAs. I also didn't really see a lot of side effects either, though. But again, very small studies. Maybe there are some side effects that we're not aware of. But
Well, maybe if you have enough of it, it'll spill over into your urine, and you can put it on pancakes.
well, but branch chain amino
I thought you
acids.
said you weren't going to say anything.
These are in foods we eat, so it's not like something that is completely foreign to us, right? So
Yep. Yeah. And that's kind of my hot take here. BCAAs are in the protein that we eat. And if you're already doing protein supplements, which is really where we have the best evidence to help with muscle gain, taking extra BCAAs isn't going to do anything, right? Like you're already eating those. And so back to what Mike said at the very beginning of this, kind of just a waste of money, right? Like if you're just going to be eating protein normally anyway, extra BCAAs aren't really going to do all that much.
sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that was the last thing that I had. Do either of you guys have any last minute thoughts about getting jacked?
I think my takeaway, because I'm over 30 and I don't care to build bigger muscles, but I do want to be more fit. So I really don't think I'm going to partake of supplements. No, obviously listeners can make their own choice, but I think I'm going to continue my, little exercise routine and probably not start
Very little exercise routine.
Very little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of back to your healthy minute, making sure that you just are doing some kind of physical activity and having some protein in your diet, right? Like you don't have to have the 100 grams or whatever it is that I said that you need to, meet these muscle gains, but to get swole, but just having some of it in your diet to make sure that you're having a healthy diet, your body's not being starved of these amino acids that we do need.
Sure.
Can we just vote never to use the word swole at the Health Deli again? I mean, I feel when I do that, I feel like the back of my mouth, my back of my throat is just kind of like getting clogged with phlegm.
I'll make that.
Getting swole.
Okay.
So is this a democracy? I'm not beholden.
We
to this,
we
this
can
group.
either vote on it and you can go with it, or I will make a non-democratic ruling, emergency declaration.
All right, we'll buy donutdeli.com instead.
There you go.
Swole Deli versus Donut Deli.
Custard versus white cream.
Vote online. Let us know which you prefer. Send us in. Where can they send us an email? The Health Deli?
Health Deli or the Health Deli at ferris.edu.
All right, let us know what you prefer. Swole Deli or Donut Deli. And I'll leave us with that. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks for stopping by the Health Deli to sample some of our wares. We're open 24/7 on Facebook and Twitter at The Health Deli, or visit thehealthdeli.com to send us a question or find any of our locations. Please come again. We will be regularly stocking the shelves with fresh content and new wellness specials. As always, we want to give a special thank you to Andrew Tingley and the crew at Ferris State University's Television and Digital Media Production Program. Until next time, so long from the Health Deli, where the topics are tasty, the takes are fresh, and the discussion is free.
I do have a question for you, Ben. Are you gonna use more slang like cap in more of these episodes? Because I need to know if I really need to start listening to this podcast even more just to listen for that. Because I'm sure you didn't see me on camera, but when you were saying like, "Oh, that's cap," or like, "Oh, you're capping me," I was dying over here.
Excellent. I do try to sneak them in sometimes. There was one word that Mike and Mark looked up once.
Oh yeah,
I forget what it
and
was.
we realized you should probably stop saying it. Ben really needs to look at the words before he decides to use them.
I know what they mean though, and I'm okay with it.
Oh, you only think you know because people call you swole, and you're like, "Oh, that's gonna be cool."
Cool, I'm swole.
That's pretty dope.